Could California finally crack the code on the housing affordability? There's a major ballot measure heading to voters, and it's proposing $25 billion in down payment assistance, all without a single new tax. Hey, it's Harv with Realty Experts. Today we're walking through the California Homeownership Act, what it does, who qualifies, and what it could really mean for the housing crisis. Both source links and the full written breakdown are in the description. Let's get into it. All right, let's talk about something big heading to the California ballot. It's taking aim at one of the state's toughest challenges, the housing crisis. It's called the California Home Ownership Act. And we're going to break down exactly what it is, how it's supposed to work, and what it can mean for millions of people. So let's just start with the question that I think is on so many Californians' minds. Is owning a home here just a dream that's completely out of reach? And for millions of people, this isn't just some headline. The housing affordability crisis is a daily stressful reality, especially for working and middle-class families. So this brings us right to our first section, California's affordability crisis. Okay, so the people pushing this measure, they frame the problem really simply. That classic American dream of owning a home, they say it's slipping away for the very working and middle-class families who are the backbone of the state. So what's the proposed solution here? Well, that brings us to section 2, a new ballot proposal. Okay, here it is. The official title is the California Middle Class Home Ownership and Family Home Construction Act. Yeah, it's a mouthful, I know, but it really tells you exactly who this is for and what it's trying to do. And the goal here is super direct. Make it more affordable to buy a newly constructed home. And that's a really key detail to hang on to. This is all about new homes. All right, but how? How does it actually plan to do all that? Let's get into the nitty-gritty in section 3, how the program works. Okay, so the whole plan is built around this one massive number, $25 billion. That's a B. That's the amount the measure would authorize to fund down payment assistance loans for people trying to buy a home. So you're probably wondering, where in the world does that kind of money come from? Well, according to the measure, it's not coming from new taxes. Instead, it's funded by something called revenue bonds. The easiest way to think about it is this. The bonds get paid back using the money that the project itself makes. So in this case, it's the home loans themselves that pay off the debt. And this leads to what is honestly a huge selling point from the supporters. They claim the program will be at no cost to taxpayers. The logic is that these bonds are set up to be paid back entirely by the home buyers who get the loans, relying on a steady stream of repayments over many, many years. Okay, so we've covered the how, but what about the who? Let's take a look in section 4. Who is eligible? So the path to qualifying, it's laid out pretty clearly. First up, you got to be a California resident and you have to plan to actually live in the home. It needs to be your primary residence. You also have to bring at least 3% for a down payment in cash. And of course, you have to be able to make those monthly loan payments. Now, here's something else that's really interesting when it comes to expanding access. The measure allows people to qualify through what's called a cash flow analysis. This basically means lenders can look beyond just a traditional credit score. They can actually look at your cash flow, which could, potentially open the door for a lot more people. Okay, so let's say this thing passes. What are the results they're hoping for? That brings us to section 5, projected goals and impact. The people back in this are setting a huge target for new housing. We're talking about a projection that this measure will help spark the construction of around 190,000 new homes all across the state. And the impact they're aiming for goes beyond just that one number. The stated goals are kind of fourfold. First, they want to incentivize new single family home construction. Second, the big one is to bridge that economic gap to home ownership. Third, of course, is creating new jobs and construction. And finally, they hope it'll generate these bigger economic benefits for the whole state. Okay, so who's actually pushing for this and what kind of guardrails are in place? Let's dive into Section 6, supporters and safeguards. One of the major backers here is organized labor. You've got Pete Rodriguez from the United Brotherhood of Carpenters, and he puts it this way. He says, the home affordability crisis has put home ownership out of reach for too many working families. So for him, you can see this is about creating both jobs and homeowners. And it's not just labor. The real estate industry is also a key supporter. Tamara Sinminsky, who's the president of the California Association of Realtors, says this measure addresses California's housing shortage and affordability crisis, creating pathways to home ownership. Now, to deal with any potential concerns, the proponents have built in a whole list of consumer protections. So the program would be run by CalHFA, that's the state's official housing finance agency. It also requires things like fixed low interest rates, put strict limits on what banks can charge in fees, make sure there's no penalty for paying off your loan early, and it requires annual independent audits. So at the end of the day, it really all boils down to one massive question. We're talking about a multi-billion-dollar plan with a really specific laser-focused goal. So what voters are going to have to decide is this. Is this the key? Is this the plan that will finally unlock middle-class homeownership in California? And that's a question every California voter is going to have to weigh in on. Quick reminder, this video is informational only, not legal or financial advice. Always verify ballot details directly with the California Secretary of State. For the full written breakdown, visit my blog. You'll find the link in the description below, along with source links from the California Association of Realtors and the Sia Homes Coalition. If this was helpful, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and drop your questions in the comments. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.